In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how I created this crazy clone effect inside of After Effects. Now with this effect, I actually created two different examples. So for this first one here, I'll play it back really quick. And as you can see for this first example, I just have a clone popping up every few frames, which adds a pretty cool effect to this video. But as you can see for the second example here, I added a lot more motion to the camera, and it just added a lot more energy to this clip. So if you want to learn either the first or the second example I just shown, I'm going to be going over both of those in this tutorial. Now starting off, obviously we need to have some footage, and ideally with a subject that we can go ahead and outline. So we want to go up to the rotor brush here and select your footage, and you just want to go ahead and create an outline around your subject. Alright, so once you have your first frame outlined, you can just go ahead and go frame by frame. And for this clip, it might mess up a little bit, but it looks like it's actually pretty good. I don't think it even messes up at all, so I might get pretty lucky here and just be able to kind of let it do its thing, which I think I'm just going to do. I don't really want to mess with this anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead and freeze this layer, and that's just going to freeze our rotor brush. As you can see, it's going through all the frames and just freezing everything. So once that's done, we can close this composition, and back inside of our main composition, let's go ahead and duplicate this clip. So hitting Control D and deleting the rotor brush on the bottom layer. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this clip a few times, maybe like 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we can just drag our clone around and move them pretty much wherever we want on our footage. So I'm going to have 2 over there and then 2 on the left side. Now I'm going to have this effect start somewhere around here. So I think this is like 30 frames from the start of our footage, and to make this look a bit easier, I'm going to just color these 2 clips here in pink so I can actually see that these are original layers that we don't want to mess with. And these 4 layers up here are the ones we can move around and apply effects to. So what I'm going to do is trim this layer all the way down to the marker that I set, and then go 5 frames over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then drag our other one to that marker and just do the same thing. So 5 frames over again, and then again for that very last clip. Now we can either have the subject stay on the screen pretty much the whole time like this, or what we can do is trim it down. So right before each clip starts, we can trim it back down. So after the 5 frames, you just want to trim the clip. And then this way it kind of pops in and out, which looks pretty cool. Now what we can do is go ahead and apply our effects to our clones. Now the first effect I'm going to apply is called Tint. So bring this on to one of our layers, and I'm just going to use this clone right here. Now let's apply brightness and contrast. Bring this below our tint right here, and let's make the brightness like 80, and then we can adjust the contrast. I'm going to do 80 for that as well. And as you can see with that effect, it just kind of helps bring it out from the footage and makes it pop a little bit more. Now let's go ahead and apply posterize, and this gives it a bit more style instead of just having it off. It's a little subtle, but what we can do is mess with the level here. So I'm going to make this like 5, and you can see it just brings out some detail from the black and white, which I think looks pretty clean. So let's just go ahead and close these so it makes everything smaller. Now I'm going to go ahead and apply glow. If you have plugins, so if you have like Sapphire Glow, you can use that if you want, or Deep Glow, or whatever you want to use. But most people don't really have any plugins, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the default glow. And I'm going to bring the glow threshold to 10, the glow radius to 240, and then the glow intensity, I'm going to bring that to 2. Now you don't have to exactly copy these settings. They're going to be pretty different for kind of your footage, so go ahead and mess around with these. You can make the glow intensity even stronger if you want, or you can make it less, depending on your liking. But what we can do is just select all of these effects, and then select our other layers here, and just hit Control V to paste them on to our other clones. And there you go. Now you have this super cool clone effect. And that's pretty much what I did for that first example that I showed at the start of the video. Really, the only other thing I did was add an adjustment layer. So adding an adjustment layer and then adding some vignette, grain, and then I added some deep glow just to kind of bring out more of the highlights, and this makes everything blend together. But this is a plugin, and as well as S_flicker. This is from Sapphire. Like the effect says, flicker just makes the footage flicker. So as you can see, it just adds a little bit more style to it. But if you don't have these plugins, I'd still recommend adding some vignette and grain. It just kind of helps blend everything together. But if you like this effect, but you want to add some more movement to it and make it look a little bit less boring if you don't like how this is looking, then what we can do is add some different animations. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and expand these clones again. Now for this, instead of going 5 frames, I'm actually going to be going 10 frames for each clone. So I'm going to start around here and then go 10 frames over. So holding shift and your arrow key should skip 10 frames. But if you don't have that set up, I think you can go into edit and then keyboard shortcuts, and there should be something in there that you can go ahead and change. But if you don't have that and you can't find it, then you're just going to have to go frame by frame. But yeah, holding down shift and arrow key will skip 10 frames, and we can just trim that down. Do that again. Trim down our other clone. And then for the last one, trim that down. And then I'm going to go 20 frames over. So holding down shift and hitting the arrow key twice, and then just trim all these layers down. Now let's go up to layer, new, and null object. Now you want to go ahead and select all of your layers, go up to the pick whip tool and parent this to your null object. So now when you move this null, it moves all of the layers together. Everything is moving all in one piece. So hitting S and P will open up the scale and position values. I'm going to set a keyframe, so clicking the stopwatch here, just a few frames before this clip starts. Now let's go in the middle of this clip, and then let's set a keyframe here for the scale and position, and then scale in, and then kind of move it around to fit for our clone on this first one. So when I play this back really quick, I'm basically just having it zoom in on this clone, and then I'm going to go to the middle of this other clone and then move this to kind of focus on him right here. So basically what I'm trying to do is move the camera to focus on each clone as it's popping up. And I'm setting a keyframe at each middle of these clones here. So now I have to bring this all the way back to the left of our screen. And then for the end of the animation, I'm actually going to bring this back and focus on our main subject. And then for the last keyframe, let's just go ahead and bring the scale back to 100 and then make the position back to its default values. So now we have this animation, and as you can see, it already adds a lot more motion. And you want to make sure you have motion blur enabled for all these layers if you don't already, as well as motion blur is enabled up here. So this animation is looking pretty cool, but what I want to do is smooth out all these keyframes. And the best way to do this is actually using this plugin called Flow. And this is a paid plugin that you will have to download if you don't have it. If you do, you just want to go ahead and select all your keyframes, and then we're just going to create a graph like this. And then if you hit apply, and it applies that graph to literally all these keyframes here in one click. So it's pretty amazing, and it makes everything super smooth and super easy to use. But if you didn't have Flow, what you would have to do is just select all these keyframes and hit F9 to easy ease them. And then in the position here, we can select all of these ones, open up the graph editor. And what we'd have to do is just kind of move these keyframes towards the middle like this for all of the position values. So now we have the position all smoothed out. So now let's go ahead and do that same for the scale. So selecting all the keyframes for the scale, going into the graph. Now this graph is going to look a bit different because it's a value graph instead of the speed graph. So if you want to work in the speed graph, you can, but I kind of like the value graph for this. But I recommend just having the auto select graph type because it's going to select the best graph for what keyframes you're using. But for this, you want to go ahead and kind of copy what I have up here in this flow. So as you can see, it's kind of like an S shape. So let's go ahead and create that for all of these keyframes here. So now with that done, we can go ahead and go back into our composition. Now when we play this back, we should get the same effect that we kind of had with the flow here. And as you can see, that actually looks super clean. So if you didn't have the flow plugin, you'd still be able to create this animation, but it would just take a little bit longer. So that's why I kind of like using this plugin, because it just makes everything a lot easier and faster. Now the very last effect I'm going to apply to this is Simple Choker. And you want to bring this right above your glow and make the choke matte start at 100 and set a keyframe on that. And I just went ahead and applied that to our first clone right here. Now let's go ahead and go like a few frames over, let's say like 4 or 5, and then bring that down to 0. And what we can do is just copy this effect and paste it onto our other ones here. But you want to make sure that that Simple Choker is above the glow when it gets pasted. So as you can see, when I paste it onto our layer, it gets applied below the glow, which ends up not looking kind of clean. So you want to make sure that is above the glow like that. And with that effect applied, it just adds a little bit more of an animation, slowly kind of grows onto the screen. And I think that actually looks super cool. But that's up to you if you want to have that effect applied or not. And then just finishing this effect off, I'm going to go ahead and open up the opacity by hitting T, and then just bring this back down to 0%. So it kind of just fades everything out at the end. So it's not just a hard kind of cut off. And there we go. Lastly, we can go ahead and turn back on our adjustment layer that has our vignette and grain. And now we have a super cool animation with our clone effect applied. Hopefully you guys enjoy this effect and you guys use this in your next edit. I haven't really done any music video sort of effects, so if you guys want to see more effects like this in the future, then make sure to drop a comment down below asking for what effects you want to see next. But yeah, if this tutorial helped you guys out, then make sure to drop a like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.